So it is over for soon-to-be former British Prime Minister Theresa May. The embattled PM culminated her descent into the political wilderness by resigning late this week, effective in a couple of weeks. No doubt her failure to close the deal on Brexit, in fact, to not even come close, sealed her fate and her legacy. And joining us from the UK to discuss and analyze the fallout and the now even more turbulent political landscape is our man on the scene, international correspondent and managing editor for LibertyNation.com, Mark Angelides. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Tim. Good to be here.
Good to have you. So let me ask you this. Why did Theresa May even want this job in the first place? Was she hungry enough for power that she was blinded to the difficulty she was sure to face in making Brexit work?
Well, that's an interesting question, Tim, and one that many people would suggest it is a bit of an odd one because it seems apparent based on her actions over the last 3 years, and bearing in mind that the UK should be out of the European Union by now, that she never actually wanted Britain to leave the EU in the first place. So it wasn't so much that she was hungry enough for power, but more so that she thought she could put a stopper and make it a brino, as we call it, a Brexit in name only.
Right. You mean like putting a doorstop in the door so that the door can't open any wider?
Pretty much that, yes.
Okay, well, she is pretty much history, and you've got a variety of names brought forward as candidates to succeed Theresa May. A couple of Brexit hardliners, an anti-Brexiteer, a moderate, all seen as possibilities. Is this really the acid test for how far the Tories, the Conservative Party, will go in their commitment to Brexit as it was intended and put up for a vote back in 2016?
Well, whoever becomes the next prime minister, it doesn't go out to a general election. It goes to an election within the party, so
Right.
Party members. And there's a couple of things to consider with that. The first one being that last year, I believe was, the end of last year, beginning of this year, there was a mass movement to join the Conservative Party by people who wanted a no-deal Brexit, a WTO term Brexit. So they could have a vote on who the next prime minister would be and get a real Brexiteer in the job. So there's some Tories in sheep's clothing there who'll certainly be willing to get their hands dirty in terms of making sure an actual Brexiteer takes the top spot. But also with the recent EU elections, what you found is that many of the Conservative Party associations, which are the local branches, which, you know, they're the grassroots activists, and the people who do the actual work of the party on a local level, they were actually not voting for the Conservative Party during these elections. Many of them have been removed from position. Many of them have been censured because they've decided to vote for the Brexit Party, Nigel Farage's new party, as opposed to the party they're supposed to be managing at a local level. So those two things into account, there's a very good chance that at least somebody who's nominally for Brexit will make the top slot.
Now, where does Nigel Farage figure in the calculation of party insiders as to who should be the next prime minister? You've got Boris Johnson, for example, who's a Brexit hardliner. Will Farage be working behind the scenes to make sure that a Brexit hardliner is the next prime minister?
Again, an interesting but odd question. You see, there's some debate as to whether there are any actual real Brexit hardliners left within the Conservative Party. Because when Theresa May put forward her withdrawal agreement bill the first time, many of the ones who would class as hardline Brexiteers voted against it. And then they voted against it when it came forward a second time. The third time when it came forward, many of them actually jumped ship and decided to vote for it. Which essentially means that the UK is leaving in name only. So whether Nigel Farage, who really will be the kingmaker, I believe, when the next general election comes around, whether he's willing to back any of these potential as you say, hardline Brexiteers or not, that remains to be seen, because although Nigel has demurred often enough that he has no interest in being prime minister, the odds are moving in his favor, very much so, to be prime minister within the next few years.
Well, thank you, Mark. You've enlightened us as usual, and we'll stay on top of this. You'll stay on top of this for LibertyNation.com. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Tim. Take care.
Mark Angelides, international correspondent and managing editor of LibertyNation.com. Quick break, and then we're back to talk with Trump economic advisor and victim of leftist hate, Stephen Moore.
Exhausted by all the fake news? On LibertyNation.com's YouTube channel, facts and fresh, bold analysis are what you get without the leftist spin. Subscribe today to the LibertyNation.com YouTube channel because
truth
is
making a comeback.